The Norse had a complex ritual and religious landscape, strongly rooted in the notion of fate, but that did not stop some of their number in seeking to bend the material world to their favour by supernatural means. And this is where the dark mystical arts of Seiðr came in. And, as we shall see, this arcane pagan practice carried on long into their apparent Christianization. In Old Norse, Seidr was a form of ritual magic practiced reasonably widely in Norse society in the late Scandinavian Iron Age and continued for longer. The mystical art was believed to be a type of magic in which practitioners would attempt to bend or foretell the future as woven by the mythical Norns. Its origins are shrouded in mystery but could derive from ancient shamanistic traditions like those followed by the Norse people's neighbours, the Sami. It is said to have largely died out as Scandinavia embraced Christianity between the 8th and 12th centuries, although, as we shall see, it continued in one form or another long after the first flourishing of Christianity. Seiðr was mentioned in various literary sources, including the sagas, and, as mentioned, is believed by some researchers to have shamanistic influences, especially given that it involves spiritual and transcendental journeys and visions. Its practitioners could be male or female, with women being known as Volor, Seithkonor, and Vísindakona. Male Seiðr were rarer and were known as Seithmenn. The frenzied and visionary nature of the mystical art meant that it was inextricably tied to Odin, the deity most closely associated with frenzy, war, magic, and poetry. This poetry was not in the sometimes whimsical form we understand it today, but connected to oral history, heightened perception, prophecy and wisdom, as derived from the mythical mead of poetry and incantation. But as well as Odin, it was also linked to the goddess Freyja. This is important as, with Freyja being a Vanir fertility goddess, it alludes to an older origin. The Vanir were believed to have revealed the potent practice to the ascendant Aesir. The martial culture of the Viking Age saw to it that male participation in Seiðr was viewed as effeminate or unmanly in its sneaky subterfuge, as opposed to the straightforward and forthright world of the Vikings. No less a figure than Odin was accused of unmanliness by Loki in the Lokasenna. Responding to this charge, Odin replied in typically scathing fashion by remarking, "Knowest thou that I gave to those I ought not, victory to cowards? Thou was 8 winters on the earth below, milked cow as a woman, and didst there bear children. Now that, methinks, betokens a base nature." The 13th century saga of Eric the Red recalls an enlightening description of a Greenland-based Volva or Seiðr practitioner called Thorbjorg, meaning protected by Thor. It read, "Now, when she came in the evening, accompanied by the man who had been sent to meet her, she was dressed in such wise that she had a blue mantle over her, with strings for the neck, and it was inlaid with gems quite down to the skirt. On her neck she had glass beads, on her head she had a black hood of lambskin, lined with ermine. A staff she had in her hand, with a knob thereon, it was ornamented with brass, and inlaid with gems round about the knob. Around her she wore a girdle of soft hair, or belt of touchwood, and therein was a large skin bag, in which she kept the talismans needful to her in her wisdom. She wore hairy calfskin shoes on her feet, with long and strong-looking thongs to them, and great knobs of latten at the ends. On her hands she had gloves of ermine skin, and they were white and hairy within." As mentioned, there were male practitioners of Seiðr, but they were considered to be effeminate within Norse culture, a taboo that was not well regarded, to say the least. One author, Neil Price, suggests that elements of the practice involved carnal acts, with staffs being given phallic kennings or epithets in the sagas. Seiðr rituals might include chanting, drumming and invoking spirits, and they were often performed outdoors or in special sacred places. The practitioner might use a distaff, a tool for spinning wool, as a symbolic tool, connecting the practice with the spinning of fate. The nature of some of these rituals could indicate a connection to the Sami, a people that coexisted with the Germanic Norse, particularly in northern parts of Scandinavia. Sami shamans, known as Noaidi, performed rituals that bear a resemblance to those of Seiðr. Both Noaidi and Seiðr practitioners entered trance states, often with the help of rhythmic drumming or chanting or sensory deprivation. During these trances they were believed to travel to other realms, communicate with spirits, and influence the fate of people or the environment. In Sami shamanism, the Noaidi used drums, known as runebom, and songs, yoik, in their practices, which parallels the Volva's use of singing or chanting during Seiðr rituals. The drum was particularly important in Sami rituals, used to connect to the spirit world, just as chanting and rhythmic music were essential for entering a trance in Seidr. Additionally, both Seidr and Sami shamanism share similar gender dynamics. In both traditions, magic and shamanism were often considered more the domain of women. The Sami Noaidi could be male or female, but like the vulva in Seidr, the practice was often seen as feminine in Norse culture. For men to perform Seidr was considered unmanly or shameful, which may stem from the same shamanistic roots. In Snorri Sturluson's Ynglinga saga, part of his larger work in the Heimskringla, Seidr is mentioned as an important magical practice that was brought to the Norse gods, particularly associated with the goddess Freyja. Snorri describes Seidr as a powerful but controversial form of magic, particularly due to the gender role issues mentioned previously. Snorri describes how the god Odin learned and practiced Seidr after Freyja introduced it. Odin used Seidr to gain wisdom, see into the future, and manipulate fate. In particular, he could shape events by controlling the minds and fates of men. However, Snorri notes that this practice was considered shameful for men because it was associated with femininity, passivity and manipulation, which conflicted with the Norse ideals of masculinity. In fact, practicing Seidr was so unmanly that it could be a source of shame and ridicule for men. Odin's use of Seidr, despite his high status, reflects his willingness to transcend social norms to acquire knowledge and power. In the Ynglinga saga, Snorri specifically mentions, Odin knew that the art gives great power, which is called Seidr, and he practiced it himself. With it he could know the destinies of men and the events yet to happen, as well as bring death, bad luck or sickness to people, or take away their wits or strength. But this sorcery is accompanied by such great unmanliness that men consider it shameful to practice it, and so it was taught to priestesses. The sagas recall many occasions where the clearly pagan practice of Seidr was used to gain the upper hand in all kinds of situations. However, it is possible it continued even after the Norse were Christianized, and there is an incredible example cited among the Norse-descended Normans. This was said to have taken place during the Battle of Ely, where William the Conqueror was fighting to crush the rebellion of the Anglo-Danish hero Hereward the Wake in 1071. The frustrated Norman ruler was said to have resorted to the tactic to demoralise Hereward's forces. It was said that William had a witch placed on a wooden tower or platform near Ely. From this high position she was supposed to use sorcery to curse the English rebels and bring about their defeat. However, the story goes that Hereward's men, known for their resourcefulness, burned the tower, killing the witch and foiling the supernatural attempt to undermine them. Whilst this incident is not explicitly described as Seidr, it illustrates a medieval belief in the use of magic or supernatural means in warfare. So it is possible that the man who invaded England and ranged up against Harold Godwinson's forces at the Battle of Hastings, under the banner and blessing of Pope Alexander II, used pagan magic from his Viking ancestors in an attempt to secure his rule. Its influence continued into popular consciousness too, as Shakespeare is thought to have been inspired by the practice, as well as the fate-spinning Norns, in the creation of his witches in Macbeth. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description, or via YouTube Super Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.